It's Dr. Charles Parker, and you're listening to Core Brain Journal. It's a place where I connect both fresh discoveries and interesting different perspectives from advanced mind science with the realities of real people and everyday life down on Main Street. Well, welcome, folks. Here we are one more time at Core Brain Journal. This is episode 056. We've done this 56 times, and we've got a very interesting, entertaining guy here who is going to tell us about a variety of different things, including how to get your mind straight with really being stuck in goal achievement, not making it, procrastination, self-doubt. We're gonna talk more about it. Will Shane, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here, and that's quite a tall order you just put in front of me.
Well, I only was reading the title of your book, buddy.
I didn't realize it was such a mouthful.
Well, I was elaborating on it a little bit. So I'm going to tell the audience a little bit about you. Will Shane is from Bremerton, Washington. Thanks for visiting us all the way across the country. He's a professional hypnotist. For 10 years, he's been specializing in goal creation, smoking cessation, athletic performance, and student performance. He's been a comedy stage hypnotist who has performed all over the country, specializing in schools and club fundraisers. And this is something we're going to talk about in a minute. He's an NLP practitioner and author of the book, Goal Achievement, Conquering Procrastination, Self-Doubt, Limiting Beliefs, and Fear. And the rest of the title is Live the Perfect Life You Deserve Using Self-Hypnosis. That's the punchline. That's an extremely cool punchline, because what you're saying is you can do this yourself if you get the whole picture of what's going on.
100%.
Very, very interesting. So tell us, Will, a little bit about yourself. Where are you? What are you doing now? What's of interest in terms of your life and your family?
Right now, really being a hypnotist and NLP practitioner and helping people has really been kind of my goal and what's driven me in life probably for the last 10 years. And a lot of that came from my own self-doubt, my own failures, and hitting a point in my life. There's not really a scientific term to say what happened to me, so I always just tell people I lost my mojo.
Ouch, that hurts.
Yeah. And it happened to me when I was early 30s, and I went from being a guy who was a super confident guy who really excelled at certain parts of his life, and then just through certain situations, it just all went away, and I couldn't get it back. I couldn't become the man I was. And I did some research, and luckily, I always tell people the book that changed my life was a book called The Game by Neil Strauss. And the first thing you hear about that book is it's a book about guys learning how to pick up women. But the thing about that book you learn as you read it a second time is it's about men becoming just better men. And so by reading that book, I started learning that there was people out there who were kind of in the same situation I was. And one of the things they talked about was NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnosis, which are kind of intertwined together. And I just started going down a path of learning how to do it and how to take control of my brain and my mind and my emotions, and learning how to focus them and make stuff happen.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you get that right from the book, or did you then have a mentor, a guide, somebody that worked with you? How did all that work?
It's funny. It's kind of how you start. Once you start looking down a path, you start finding it everywhere. And that first was in a book, and this was really pre-internet as far as it being like, something we used every day. So the research was mostly going through YouTube videos and finding websites and getting through all the mess that was geared toward the one fix all. Like, this is the easiest thing in the world. Once you learn it, your life will be complete. So it was just gathering research. Tony Robbins was a big help on that. And then I went to a hypnosis show and saw a comedy hypnotist by the name of Ron Stubbs. And after the show, I went up to him and said, "Hey, I'd really like to learn how to do this," because I was a volunteer on the show, and I had so much fun. And luckily for me, I lived on an island in Washington called Camino Island, and he lived on the same island.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And unbeknownst to me, and then we just kind of hit a friendship, and he started training me on the stage hypnosis part of it. And stage hypnosis and clinical hypnosis, hypnotherapy, they're really two different things. But stage hypnosis drives a lot of people to clinical hypnosis because they go to a show and they see their friends laughing and dancing and, dancing with a rabbit when they hear a certain song. And they're like, wow, he has mind control over them. And it's not what happens. And so I had so many people after my shows coming up to me and like, hey, can you help me quit smoking? Hey, can you help me with this? That I went to school to learn how to do hypnotherapy and NLP the right way. And once I did that and then helping people, that was that void in my life that I really needed.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very interested in the differentiation. If you could tease that apart a little more.
Yeah.
What's your experience of being the guy on the stage and also being the therapist? What are the big differences there that would be of interest to really understand them?
Well, the thing is, like the title says, self-hypnosis. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis, all of it. And everybody can be hypnotized. You're hypnotized multiple times during the day. It's a natural state that we go into. But as a hypnotherapist, you're making that happen faster and with purpose. So stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy couldn't be two different things, because the people that are up on the stage, those are people who are comfortable being out in front of people. They volunteered to be on the show. And whereas hypnotherapy is more of a one-on-one, we're sitting down, there's no pocket watch, that you're hanging above anybody. And it's a very partner-driven, procedure where the way I always explain hypnosis to my clients is this way. Imagine if we were driving a car. You're driving, you're behind the wheel, you're doing everything, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat with the map book. And I'm telling you how to get to the destination, but you get to decide how we're going to get there. And that's really what the difference. Whereas in stage hypnosis, get up on stage, I got 8 minutes to hypnotize you, and then we're going to my goal is to entertain. Whereas in hypnotherapy, my goal is to change.
Gotcha. Excellent point. Excellent point. So then, as you got into it, let's talk a little more about neurolinguistic programming, because that's a word that's new for a lot of folks, but it's extremely relevant to, personal development and what you're doing. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what neurolinguistic programming is really, it's got a lot of different meanings. A lot of different people have taken it and taken ownership of different parts of it. The part of NLP, I always say, it's the language that we use. And it's that self-talk, and also it covers a bunch of different things that come together to make it really powerful. And one of the biggest parts of it is called modeling. And we're very lucky in this day and age, because whatever you want to do in life, if there's a goal you want to achieve, there's a pretty good chance someone's already achieved it and has a YouTube video, and they're more than happy to show you how they did it. And so NLP is really about that, getting that decision to make a change, changing your self-talk, that language that we have inside of our heads, learning how you learn. And that's another big thing. Some people learn visually, some people learn auditory, some people learn kinesthetic by touching. So once you figure out what that way of learning is, and that's where the hypnotist or NLP helps you to figure it out, you really opens up doors of how you learn, and it makes everything faster. And then you can go and model somebody who's doing what you're doing already, which I've done multiple times, where I've just gone out and modeled other stage hypnotists out there that are really good, and like, hey, what's their habits? What do they do? How do they go through life? And can you implement those into your life?
So great. Now let me ask you this. Take it down to a school where you're doing it. Do you do it in high school, or do you do it in elementary school, or how young do you go?
I go for my shows and also for the therapy part of it. Junior high is about where I like to stay. Junior high up, high schools and colleges.
So then what happens in high school? Because I would think that'd be the roughest, most difficult audience of any audience. I mean, I've done some presentations to high schools, and I would say it's harder than talking probably to the doggone Supreme Court.
Oh man, doing a comedy hypnosis show for high schools is like stealing money. It's so easy. And the reason being is because it's entertaining and it's fun. And they don't have those, misconceptions like, oh, people are going to laugh at me and I'm going to be embarrassed. They want to laugh. They want to be embarrassed. They want to go up there and, all hypnosis is, especially in that form, you have to allow me to hypnotize you. If you don't want to be hypnotized, you won't be. And so those are kids that they want to be. I wish I could do 5 high school shows a day. It's that easy.
It does. It sounds like fun just even thinking about it. So
And it really is.
what do you
It's
do
really
with them?
fun.
When they get up on the stage, what do you do? What kind of things happen?
With kids like that, it's always a clean, safe show. And so it's not a Vegas style adult show by any means. And, I get them up there and I make them rock stars. And I have one of my signature acts, somebody falls in love with a bunny rabbit every time they hear this song. And throughout the show, the song plays and this person will get up and dance with the bunny rabbit every time. And I make them the village people, just stuff, fun stuff like that.
Now,
And then
I'm
I'm sorry.
I
Oh,
interrupt you. I apologize. I got the picture with
oh.
the rabbit. Do you bring a rabbit with you, or do you have
I-
like a toy rabbit, or what do you do?
Yeah, I got a giant stuffed yellow rabbit that's been with me now since the very beginning, and yeah, he's by far the star of the show. And then with high school kids, you end it by giving them positive messages, and you give them you don't beat them over the head with it. You give it to them in a way that they like, where it's like, hey, look, you want to change your life, you want to be better, go out there, and I challenge every person who comes onto my stage for the next 30 days. For the next 30 days, this is all you have to do. Compliment one person. Just compliment one person a day for the next 30 days and watch how your life changes by
That is
changing that
extremely
language.
cool. That's extremely cool. Can you imagine how that would, I mean, if everybody in high school did that,
Yeah.
that must be, and they love you for that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And then you always come back every year. I do some of the same high schools every year. And you do, especially the grad nights, and you get to be a part of their life where you're a memory. I've seen many graduation speeches where the next day while they're graduating, they're talking about the hypnosis show from the night before, and you get to be part of that. You're part of that forever.
That's fantastic. It's a big contribution. That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
So then what do you do with the clinical thing? Tell us those are fun. Let's talk about difficulties that have been sort of challenges for you where you had to dig into it more carefully and come up with, hey, I've got to do something different here. This isn't working.
So with clients, every client's different. And so one of the problems with hypnosis and NLP is it's sold as all you need is to do this and it works 100% of the time. And that's why I love what I do with hypnosis and NLP, where I merge them together, where by asking you a series of questions, and that's what I put in my book, is if you want to create a goal, here's a checklist of things you need to do, and then just answer these questions and it'll give you a roadmap that you need. So one of the challenges I have with helping people is figuring out how are they going to take in information. If somebody's who's auditory and me telling them that you see this, you saw that, using that language doesn't really work that well. You want to use language like hear, sounds, that kind of stuff. So figuring out that, and usually that's most times when a client comes in, is we figure out that first. We figure out how they take in information. Then I want to know how they see the world, because we all see the world differently.
Well, when you say that, now take that a couple sentences further down the road, because give us an example of how you would see that, how you would hear it, and how you would apply it in your work.
So I'll just use smoking, because that's a big part of my business, helping. And for me, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, and I've seen my mother and my family problems with cigarettes. And cigarette smoking is one of those things that's a passion of mine, of getting people to quit smoking. I've helped people quit smoking for free just because, hey, let's get you off these cigarettes. But then when a person comes into a cigarette, I need to know how they see themselves as a smoker. And so first things I ask them, how do you see yourself? And if they say, well, I'm addicted to cigarette smoking, that's a key word right there, addicted. So now I need to dig deeper. Like, what do you think when you hear the word addiction? Mm-hmm. And so that right there gives them an out, because they're like, oh, I'm addicted. There's nothing I can do about this. And so it gives them an escape. So what we have to do is break that and make them change their perception, change their frame, as they say in NLP. And then the frame is how you see the world. And so if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I'm addicted to cigarette smoking, I always ask them, so you've stolen money to buy cigarettes? No. Well, that's what an addict would do. You've done, horrible things to buy cigarettes? No. Well, that's what an addict would do. And so breaking that frame of that I have no control is usually the toughest part. And then it's by going through is just a series of questions and how they answer them, and I look at the language that they use. If they use a lot of visual language, then I know they kind of see they take in information visually. If they use kind of, how I hear things, I heard him, I heard that, I heard my mother, then I know. So
very interesting, very interesting. So then you put them in a state and take them through an exercise, I assume.
Yep, 100%. What we do then is, so I need to know their model and how they see the world. And so the first thing I do is I break that state of like, I'm an addict, I can't get out of this. Or I ask 3 questions. And this is 3 questions that anybody can ask is, why do you want to do this? And so I have them tell me why. So, well, why do you want to quit smoking? I want to get healthier. I want to do all this stuff. And then you ask them another question. What will happen if this doesn't happen? And that creates an emotional state. And that emotion state, we need to realize that emotions are our fuel. Emotions are what gets us through the day. Emotions are what we do, why we do it. And so they give me a reason why they want to quit, what will happen if they don't, which gives me that negative emotion. And then I ask them, what will happen if you do reach this goal? So then we end it on the positive note. And then from that information, from what I get from them, is the information I'm going to use back in hypnosis. So there's no one set script. Oh, here's a script on how to quit smoking. Just read the script and you're no longer quit smoking. I take it and I need to see their world. And that's where NLP comes in. Excuse me. And so they tell, yeah.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. So how do you do this? I was very pleased to see that one of your favorite books was the War of Art. I think
best book ever.
I mean, that book is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I've given that book away at least 20 times.
That book, that's a life changer.
Yeah, 100%. It's an easy read too. It's a super easy read.
You just go right through it. It's like, what are you doing? It's really a very, very good book. I'll have all these books that you listed on the show notes, but let me ask you another question now. Do you do virtual hypnosis? Do you talk to people in Tasmania or Nebraska?
Yeah, I've done some Skype hypnosis. It's not something I'm an expert at. I kind of need to be able to. You can have a thing in hypnosis called an ab reaction, and that's where they have a memory that comes up that they didn't know, and I would be uncomfortable doing that on Skype. I've done Skype just for like goals, because if you want to learn how to make a goal, there's a process, and we could talk through that process. There's no hypnosis involved as far as me putting you into the state. Self-hypnosis is you do it yourself. That's really, like right now, just by talking, people right now, I'm sure somebody's driving, listening to us talk, and they're unaware that they're controlling the speed and they're, there's a turn, and they know make the turn, but they won't remember all the steps that they just went through. That's hypnosis, and that's self-hypnosis. And so if somebody wanted to come to me for a goal, Skype, we can go through the process and you'll have a very clear defined goal, which is the key to goal making. But as far as like doing the actual hypnosis for like quit smoking or anything like that, I prefer to be in the room in case there's an issue.
Okay, so to go back to that other point, because I thought that was a very interesting, tease apart, if you will, please, self-hypnosis. Let's take a little more of that because, somebody's driving the car. They would like to, hey, how could I do that? I mean, it's more complex than a short conversation. We only have a half hour here, but if you could give them some highlights, then we could take them back to your website. And you could look at some things.
100%.
So how does a person do self-hypnosis?
So the best way to describe hypnosis in general is your conscious mind and you have your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is like right now you're listening to me talk. That's being done at your conscious level. And meanwhile, in your subconscious mind, there's tons of stuff happening as far as your heart rate, your breathing, all that other kind of stuff. So what you want to do is you want to overload your conscious mind. And they say the conscious mind can only handle 7 to 10 things at one given time. And once that happens, hypnosis kicks in. So I always tell people, first things first, take control of your breathing. And so to go into self-hypnosis, just find a nice place to sit, find a place that you can be quiet, and to begin to notice your breathing. Just by breathing in and out, and being consciously aware of it. and then focusing on your heart rate if you can, and just keep focusing on certain things that you can. If there's a sound in the room, focus on that sound in the room too. And once you overload that subconscious, the subconscious kind of wakes up and releases all this stuff. So anything you might be trying to deal with. So if you're consciously like, I want to quit smoking, I want to be better at this, just do some self-hypnosis where you breathe in and out, focus on your heart rate, and try to do that for 10 to 15 minutes, and your subconscious will take care of the rest. People have this misconception about hypnosis that you're not in control. You're very much awake. Most people, when I do a hypnosis session, I talk to them. Mm-hmm. And so they're very aware of everything around in the room. The misconception is you fall asleep in hypnosis, or what if I was to, like in the movie Office Space, have a heart attack and die and you're stuck in hypnosis. You can't. It's just a natural state that we go into. You go into hypnosis right before you wake up, right before you go to sleep every day. And alarm clock, I use that as an example. If you ever hit your snooze alarm, the first time you hit it, you're okay. But that third time you hit the snooze alarm, you're super groggy. And that's because you've gone in and out of hypnosis 3 times pretty rapidly. And that puts you in a nice quiet state. I'll tell you something you can do. This is always something nice to do. I do this with kids all the time. Is if you're a parent right now and you want to use some self-hypnosis on your kids, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. Is wait till they're asleep, go into your child's room, and wake them up, but don't fully wake them up. Just kind of like nudge them a little bit to where they're in that sleep state where they're kind of groggy. And you want to have your children ask them 3 questions that they would say yes to. And it's called a yes ladder. And what you're doing there, so like I used to do it to my nephew and helped him with his schoolwork, is you wake up and say, hey, are you sleeping? And they say yes. You want to go back to sleep? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. Tomorrow are you going to do your homework? Yes. And then that's it. Leave it. And just do that for a couple of nights in a row and be surprised at how much your kid just does his homework, or takes the trash out. Yeah.
That is it's funny and so interesting. The yes ladder. There's a serious affirmation there. You're actually planting the affirmation in sort of a pre-conscious state, because you were using the word conscious a moment ago, and I was listening to you and I was trying to separate out what was conscious. And I'm coming from a psychoanalytic background, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm a little strange in that regard. Okay, but when a person is breathing deeply and they're at peace and relaxed, then you said something about being conscious. Is the procedure that they put something in their mind that they would like to do in that state of relaxation, or how does that actually happen?
Yeah, so by doing the breathing and doing the relaxation. So if you're trying to go through self-hypnosis, that means there's clearly something that you've been wanting to fix for a while. Mm-hmm. So that's always running in that subconscious mind. And everything that you're thinking about is creating an emotional state inside your subconscious. And so your subconscious doesn't know what's real. It requires the conscious mind to tell it what's real. So that's really what hypnosis, like on a stage show, is. I'm taking the role of the conscious mind, telling them, giving them suggestions of what I want them to do. The subconscious goes, oh, when I hear this music, I'm going to laugh and dance with a rabbit. Here's how this would work. And it's different for every show. Yeah. So with regular hypnosis, you're going to go, like I would go and put you in a nice relaxed state, and then I give you suggestions. Self-hypnosis is the same way. You've already done it. You've been telling yourself, oh, I need to lose weight. I want to get healthier. I want to do this kind of stuff. So that plays in the subconscious mind. So once you open up that subconscious to where you go do your breathing exercises and you go ahead and go into a relaxed state, the subconscious kind of wakes up. And if you've been telling yourself this for a while, it'll give you the answers. And all of a sudden you get, I try to use the example of like, you ever just all of a sudden get an answer to something? Yes. You're like, oh, I need to do this. Where'd that come from? The subconscious knew the answer, just didn't know that you wanted it. Mm-hmm. And so, all of a sudden, oh, I should go do this. And next thing you know, you go and do it. That's where goal creation comes in place. And that's where writing stuff down and keeping a journal per se, or getting it in front of you and becoming that main focus of your life that you want to work on. It's not the pocket watch and all of a sudden I woke up and I don't want to smoke anymore. No, it's giving you the answer on how to quit smoking.
I got you. So let me ask you this question. Now, I've taken some training a long time ago in guided imagery. And of course, in that guided imagery, a person would find their inner advisor, and then they go and talk to the inner advisor. And of course, that's all yourself, but it's a metaphoric representation of what your ideal would be, and internal mentor. Now, do you
Hmm.
take it that far, or do you ever use a construct like that, or how does that apply for you?
Yeah, one of usually on my first session, one of the techniques I use is called visit the wise man. And it's the exact same thing that you're saying. And I put them in a state of hypnosis and really just as guided meditation more in this point. And we go on a journey and we see, like, we go to a mountain, which would be hard to climb, but you climb it easily. And those are all metaphors for how easy it is to take control of life. And then you go and you see a wise man or a wise woman, whatever works for you. And you ask that wise person one question. And that wise person is going to give you the answer. And you can go as much as you want. Go again the next day and ask the wise man. But you only get one question. And that allows people to go, oh, okay, I now know how to do what I need to do, which you already knew how to do in the first place. You just now needed confirmation on it. And so it's really amazing. That's one of the best things I love about doing hypnosis is when I talk to a client and by the time it's over, they're like, well, I knew I should have did that. So I don't know if hypnosis really worked. I'm like, well, if you knew you needed to do it, why didn't you do it?
Yeah, right.
So
It's interesting because a person, in a way, connects with a deeper reality of
mhm,
themselves, and then has a permission to
yeah.
follow that internal reality. But they have to get rid of the consciousness and the negativity that is.
Well, you just hit on a key point right there. And that's what I was going to bring up is one of the difference between hypnotherapy and stage hypnosis. The first thing I do in hypnotherapy is let's forgive ourselves because the person 9 times out of 10 is just carrying so much guilt. And I was a prime example. When I lost my mojo, I had a lot of guilt, and you had to forgive yourself. And that's the very first thing we do in hypnosis is let's forgive yourselves. And it's really funny. Almost every time that I do that, it doesn't care if it's man or woman. As soon as that forgiveness is given, the tears come.
Mhm.
And when you're sitting in a hypnotherapy office and it's just me and the client, first time I tell them is like, once the tears come, let them come. And the reason being is you can't cry consciously. That's an unconscious reaction. And if I told you right now, okay, go ahead and cry, start crying right now, can't do it. You have to think back to a situation, a sad situation, or do something to yourself to make that happen. So once the tears come, especially under hypnosis where we haven't done anything, we've just been talking. Now we start going with direct suggestions and working that way.
That's very interesting because you're connecting with them on a completely different level once you see that take
Hmm.
place. And I think that's very instructive and very helpful for you to say that about personal forgiveness, because it's interesting because the parallel there is so much of what we do in psychotherapy.
Hmm.
I don't do much psychotherapy anymore, to be very honest with you. I was trained for it, but it's not in my. I just don't have the time for it anymore. I'm so biologically oriented, to tell you the truth.
Right.
The bottom line on it is having a person divest themselves of the negativity that they created about their life experience and actually see who they are is so much of what we do as therapists.
100%. And the other part too is people want to make it more complicated. And that's like one of the very first things I try to do is like, look, this is really easy, and let's get that acceptance in that A, you're forgiven, and two, this is really easy to fix. You're not going to need 7 years, to quit smoking, or to change a behavior or anything. We can do this relatively quick, but we need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive yourself for originally starting to smoke, or we need to forgive yourself for originally starting to overeat or do bad in school, whatever you're there for. Let's go with the forgiving. And then the other thing is, let's focus on the future, but focus on a future that you create instead of letting life just happen to you. Let's create the life and getting that control. And that's another thing too. I think people go through life out of control, or that feeling of out of control. And I think a lot happens to you when you finally make those words, hey, I'm in control, I'll make this happen, and you go do it.
See, that is so absolutely useful in a way. And we're at a time in our brief conversation here where we're coming to some closure. But what a wonderful place to wind up our conversation when you think about it. Because, I mean, could you be more helpful to everybody who's listening than that? Saying, look, if you just spent a little time with yourself in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
got your head squared away with some breathing, forgave yourself for whatever the heck happened yesterday and figured out where you're going to go and breathe yourself into that next level of yourself.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just let that past go. Forgive yourself. Learn from it. That's the key issue. Learn from it, because that's all it really is a lesson. Okay, I know not to do that again. And then look at your future and plan it. Just say, okay, this is possible. And whatever the goal is, we live in a great time where I had a client one of my best clients was a soccer player, and he wanted to be, he's on the cusp of becoming a professional. Just couldn't do it. Just couldn't break over that edge. And he had some issues in the past, so let's forget that. But man, go follow somebody who's doing whatever you want to do. And that's the beauty of today with the technology. You can reach out to anybody and just say, what are your habits? They'll tell you,
I mean, really, that's what's happening with you and I right now.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if we may not be, you're not hypnotizing anybody. I'm certainly not hypnotizing anybody, but we're saying here is something that you can do as opposed to not doing it, being stuck, being confused, being negative, and really being hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very affirmative message. It's a great, great story. So, and it's not a story. I don't like that word. It's a great narrative. It's a great place to go is what I'm really trying to say.
So are you sure you're not trained in a neurolinguistic programming just because you're always correcting your language? Because that's true. I do it all the time. Where like somebody will come to me like, the key, here's a word I'll give somebody a client. Stop saying the word try. Just stop saying it.
Oh yeah.
Because your subconscious doesn't know what that word means. Try. I don't know, either I'm going to do it, like Yoda said, either do or not do.
Mm-hmm.
God, that little green man was way ahead of his time. There's no such thing as try. And so people come to me, that's the first thing they say. I want to try to quit smoking. I want to try to lose weight. You're either going to do it or you're not. So let's just get that started.
So good. Yeah, I'm very big on message and language. A book that I really that changed my life when I was a kid was Science and Sanity by Alfred Korsivsky. And he talks about, it's a deep book. But
sounds deep.
Oh, it's totally deep. But he talks about language and how we misuse it and get ourselves stuck by thinking reductionistically and categorically. And because we don't think about the complexity and because we don't look at the variables, we become developmentally arrested just by the way we talk.
100%.
And so that's what's going on in mind science right now. And I won't get on my soapbox about that, but you and I are thinking exactly the same. The question is, how do we collectively move forward? That's where it is.
Well, the thing now is you can't do it for anybody. Like they have to want to do it. And like I have a test. Like before you come see me for hypnosis, I have a test, and you're going to pass that test before I see you. And it's a simple test. If a client calls me, hey, I want to quit smoking, I need to quit smoking tomorrow, I can't see you till next week. I got a book schedule. But before I see it, and I'll just use smoking as an example, I want you to cut all your cigarettes in half. And every cigarette because you cut your cigarettes in half, you're officially a 50% less smoker. Okay. Second, I want you to put all of your cigarettes in a jar, and I want you to bring me that jar. That's a simple test. If the person the night before I call, like, hey, do you have the jar? If they don't, I don't see them because they're not serious about wanting to quit. And that's the problem, now with people is you can do anything in the world. You just have to go and do it. And there's so many people out there selling products or telling people like, hey, just think about it and it'll happen. You got to do some work. There's no way around that. There's no way to say you're not going to have to do some work.
This is the problem we see every doggone day. I mean, because there's an illusion that you come to see a psychiatrist and you get the med. This is what we were talking about a moment ago. And somehow you're going to be okay. And then they're disappointed that they're not okay because they haven't done anything. They have no effort except going out, getting the evaluation, buying the med, and taking the med. And it just doesn't work that way. It does not work that way.
You're going to have to do something. But the thing is, what you have to do isn't going to kill you. And it's not impossible to do, And so a lot of times with hypnosis, usually the first session is breaking that down to realizing what's possible. And I can do it, and here's why I want to do it. And it's not, hey, just wave a watch in front of me and make me like the taste of broccoli. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but they like broccoli out there in Bremerton, I'm sure.
Yeah, I keep working with
You're
it.
living in God's country out there, buddy.
I love it here.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Will Shane, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. This conversation is transformational. People are going to really appreciate this, and I look forward to sharing your book. We're going to have the drawing for your book at 056. Download will be the code, corebrainjournal.com/056 download. And we'll get the address and we'll shoot it out. We'll get their email address and we'll shoot the book out to them. So
absolutely.
We really appreciate your efforts. And I know our listeners, this is a very, very informative experience. Thank you so much.
Oh, I thank you, man. I think what you're doing is awesome. And the more people you can change, the better your life becomes.
Yes, sir. You have a good day, man. Thanks for listening to Core Brain Journal. We're working every day behind the scenes to bring you reports that connect research benches with those street trenches. Here we share the complexity of mind science because, as you know, details really do matter. One of the most pervasive, misunderstood challenges is how commonplace medications, like those written for ADHD, are used so regularly without clear guidelines. If you think you'd like more specifics, take a minute to download my 2-page PDF packed with video links and references on the absolute essentials of how to start ADHD medications. They're easily available at corebrainjournal.com/start. Thanks for listening. Do connect and stay tuned. Together we can make a difference.